Hello to everyone that's logged in for this evening's webinar. We're going to get started in 5 minutes at the top of the hour. Hello and good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's webinar, Habits to Fine-Tune Your Mindset. Before we get started, I always like to begin by thanking 99 Neon Agency for bringing me in to offer valuable information to all of you, the massive talent out there, the members of 99 Neon Agency. I'm also grateful that they give me the opportunity as well to speak with all of you to pass on some great information. So glad to be with you this evening. Um, I'm sure there might be some of you that have been in rooms with me before. If so, welcome back. If this is your first time in a room with me, welcome. I'm glad to have you. For those that may not be familiar with me, my name is Rob Hinds. I have a company called Raise Your Lid Consulting, and I do a couple things at my company. The first thing I do is I provide personal and professional coaching services. The second thing I do is teach educational training programs. What you're seeing this evening is what I call my micro learning series program. Basically, what that is, within a short period of time, I give you some tips, some information, some actionable items that you could take away. And whether you apply one thing or many things, it's super simple for you to do. And that's what we're going to be doing this evening. The third thing I do in my business is I offer educational speaking engagements and long-term training programs. So for companies, corporations, that sort of thing, I do training programs, and most of it revolves around leadership, communication, emotional and social intelligence. A lot of the micro learning programs that I do for 99 The N Agency, I also do in larger scale programs. So that's a little bit about me. At the end of the presentation, I'll give you all of my social channels, my contact information. You're more than welcome to reach out to me at any time, ask any questions, give me some feedback, some of your thoughts. Any communication is welcome from you. Glad to have you this evening. Okay, as far as questions, um, what I'll encourage you to do, I'm going to go through my entire presentation. At the end, I've definitely left enough time for everybody's questions. If you do have a question, please make sure you're asking a question that has to do with tonight's program and with tonight's topics. If there's a question you have about a different program that I've taught here at 99 Neon Agency, or you have a question that's a little more personalized, that sort of thing, you're more than welcome to send me a message and I'll be happy to answer that question. If you're referring to one particular part of the program or one particular subject, please reference whatever that subject is within your question. Also, if you would ask your questions directly, without giving me a full story or a ton of background, that way I could get through the questions quickly and give all of you responses that I can give you. I may or may not have all the answers. However, I'll do the best that I can to respond to your question. I welcome them all. Please put them in the Q&A or chat, and we'll get to all of those at the end of the program. Okay, as we kick this off, there's two things I'd like you to think about. There are two formats around a mindset, two general formats, and then there are lots of details under those formats. We talk about either a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. And we'll start with the growth mindset, and that's really what we're going to be discussing this evening. And also, if you are in any other programs with me, all of my programs revolve around the growth mindset because those are the things that move you forward. They move you forward in your career, they move you forward in life. The fixed mindset does not. The fixed mindset keeps you where you're at or even diminishes where you're at as you move along. The growth mindset basically says, regardless of where you're at, regardless of what you know, what you don't know, how intelligent you are, how intelligent you may not be, your environment, any of those things. The growth mindset says there's always a choice and always an ability to do better and be better. whatever that looks like, wherever you're at in your life, in your business. If you have a growth mindset, it's optimistic and says there's possibilities despite of what's going on with me or around me. Now, on the other end of this, with a fixed mindset basically is more black and white thinking, or I can't do this because all of the reasons or the excuses or the things that are holding you back. It also says, I don't have the ability to learn or get better. A fixed mindset keeps you where you're at. And when you stay in that zone for a long period of time, eventually you start to go downhill or you diminish. So, a fixed mindset are the people who find reasons or excuses not to do things. They blame others. They say that they can't do things, and they actually believe that. So we're going to focus totally this evening in every program you're ever in with me about the growth mindset. Okay. These are the habits that we're going to talk about this evening to fine tune your mindset. And I'm going to go through each of them in a little bit of detail, enough detail that you could walk away with each of these components either individually or collectively, and you could start to think about them and then definitely apply some of the tips I'm going to give in as far as improving or fine tuning your mindset. So there's don't stay helpless, take action, go the extra mile, be passionate, be flexible, don't complain, expect and prepare for change, and then rewrite your script. We'll start with the very first one. Let's talk about don't stay helpless. The first thing I would encourage you to do is be aware and adjust your self talk. I'll give you a couple of examples of self talk. So, an example of negative self talk is, I'm so stupid, or I'm terrible at this. That's addressing yourself as an individual with a fixed mindset. Instead of saying, I'm so stupid, you could be more realistic around it and said, you know what? I actually did something stupid. I may not be stupid, but I did something stupid. Just by adjusting that self talk in your mind has you think differently and more optimistically so you don't stay stuck and it doesn't attach to your identity. Things like, I'm I'm terrible at Instagram or I'm terrible at social media. If you say that and you think that way, that's what it's going to be instead of, I either need to learn a little more about social media to get better at it, or I'm just not skilled at this moment at Instagram or TikTok or social media. So, again, being aware and adjusting your self talk is a huge first step, and it keeps you from feeling like you're helpless. The next thing you need to realize when not staying helpless is you always have a choice. Now, if you're a toddler, if somebody happens to be under physical, mental, and emotional care, that might be a different atmosphere. However, all the rest of us, we always have a choice. If you choose to be in bad relationship, if you're in a bad relationship and you're not exiting the relationship, you're choosing to be in that relationship. If you don't like your job or where you're going in your career, you have a choice to change careers, to change jobs. Now, I'm not saying that making those changes are easy. Chances are, especially for big changes, they're not easy, but you do have a choice. You have a choice to stay exactly where you're at in life, be around the people you're around, or you have a choice to move on, move forward, and do something different. You always have a choice. The next thing to help you prevent you from staying helpless is seek what I call qualified guidance. Now, if you have a good person in your life or somebody you could confide in, part of your support system, that's good. But just remember this too. Things like social media. When you put on social media, hey, I'm having this problem or I'm dealing with this, the world will tell you what they think you should do or tell you what you should do, even though they know nothing about you. So when I say seek qualified guidance, find somebody that you could trust, that you could confide in, that will actually listen to you, actually help you move forward. Um, there are those people that might be close to us, but they also help keep us where we're at. They're really not supportive toward growth. They like you being in your comfort level. They like you being the way you're at because maybe it keeps them where they're at. So the last part of don't stay helpless is seek qualified guidance. Sometimes that might be seeing a therapist or having a counselor or finding a mentor or hiring a coach, somebody like myself that helps people move forward and we're qualified to do those things. Next on our list is take action. You could go through this program, any of the other programs that I teach for 9-9. You could go through any of the webinars about skills on acting, photo shoots, all of that stuff. You can gather tons of information. The key is application or taking action on those things. So if you make consistent efforts to improve the things that are within your control, you have the ability to do better, be better, fine tuning your mindset around those things. A lot of times people will collect information, they will make the effort to do research or collect information, but they end up doing nothing about it. I'm sure everybody in this room this evening, at one point or another, we either went on a webinar, we took a class, we did something, and then we left the information and didn't do anything with it. So making consistent efforts to improve things is a big deal. And when I say within your control, the only thing you control is yourself. You control how you feel about things, you control your reaction to things. So the things that are within your control, make it efforts to improve. The other thing you would want to do when it comes to taking action is examine and refine the environment you're in and or the people in your life. I'll explain a little bit further. When we talk about your environments, if you're part of a friend group or a group that's really positive, motivating, uplifting, that sort of thing, that's going to help you move in a certain direction. On the other hand, if you're part of a friend group, an organization, something like that, that has a really negative element or an element that doesn't support your values, the environments you're in are a big deal. So you might want to examine and maybe refine some of those things that may not be moving you forward. The exact same thing goes for the people in your life. You may be in relationships, have family members, um, even in your work life. There may be people that are just toxic or continually negative or being uncomfortably comfortable in what they're doing. And when you're surrounded by those types of people, it tends to transcend into others, which could be you. So the groups you're with, the people you're around, there's a saying out there that you become the 5 people that you're around the most. So take a look at your inner circle or take a look at the people around you and think, are these the people that are helping me grow and move forward or are they not? And then you decide how to deal with those relationships, whether you need to minimize relationships or for the ones that are really benefit you, growing those relationships. Examine and refine the environments and the people in your life. That's another great way to take action. Then we talk about working toward a constant, consistent growth mindset. At the beginning, when I define growth mindset and fixed mindset, here's what I'd like you to know a little bit more about. You may have a growth mindset with certain aspects of your life. You may also have a fixed mindset with things in your life. So that's when you start to pull things apart into their segments and decide, do I have a growth mindset about this or do I have a fixed mindset about this? Sometimes when it comes to family members, we might be more in a fixed mindset. However, when it comes to our careers in the entertainment industry, whatever that looks like, we may have more of a growth mindset or vice versa. We may have friends that are fixed, so we become fixed. We may have friends that are in the growth mindset, so we may adopt the growth mindset. But working toward a constant, consistent growth mindset in as many areas of your life as possible is a great way to take action. Go the extra mile. And here's what I'm talking about. First, we talk about giving more, regardless of what others are doing. One of the challenges we all have in our lives is we're constantly looking around at others, and there are a lot of people that suffer from comparison syndrome or imposter syndrome or keeping up with the Joneses, whatever that looks like, all of that nonsense that's out of our control. If you have a giving mentality, it's beneficial for you. It's a way to fine tune your mindset. Now, I will share with you a very important confident about context about giving. If you happen to be a people pleaser or you're giving to people that are taking advantage of you, that are rolling over you, that don't respect you, that don't respect your boundaries, that's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about giving more. When I'm talking about giving more, I'm talking about giving more to the people, the environments, the work, all of the things that are moving you forward. Those are the things I'm encouraging you to give more to, not to the people that disrespect you or treat you poorly. That's not what I'm talking about. The next piece is show empathy, even for those not good to you. Now, I'm not saying you have to put up with anybody's crap. That's not what this is. If there's somebody not good to you, just be understanding that they are the way they are. There's really nothing you can do about that. And then you could minimize that relationship or even eliminate or cut off the relationship. This is where things become important around your boundaries, which is a whole nother program that I do teach for 9-9. Maybe some of you in the room have already taken that, but show empathy means showing understanding. Not that you agree with those people that are not good to you, but you understand that they're at where they're at, and you're going to leave them right there, and you're going to move on and move forward. Then there's B. Be all in. If you're going to do something, exceed all the expectations. If you're really going to do something, do it well. Do it to the best of your ability. Learn, grow, learn from your mistakes, adapt, pivot. But if you're gonna do something, be all in. Go all in with it. If it happens to be in your career or something personal, go all in. And again, make sure that everybody and everything you're doing also supports your values and your boundaries. That's going the extra mile. Be passionate. You if I'm sure there are many of you in the room that are extremely passionate about what you do, but there are also people that get into either a comfortable format or they actually get into a rut and they stay there. When you truly unleash your passion about things, this is when stuff really starts to work out for you. And I always say, keep your energy at a realistic positive high even when you don't want to. When you have passion about something, it's not that you have to get up and go to work. You get to get up and go to work. It's not that you have to take your brother to the doctor. You get to take your brother to the doctor. So anything that you might be passionate about or you have strong feelings for, keep that energy level realistically positive. And when I say positive, I'm not talking about toxic positivity to where everything needs to be sunshine and rainbows. That's massively unrealistic. I'm talking about being optimistic to where even though you know things can go poorly or go wrong, you still have a good outlook on the future and things that are happening. When you run into challenges or problems, you could either look at them as a detrimental thing to you, or you could look at them as a learning opportunity. When you're really fine tuning your mindset toward growth mindset and moving forward, you start to look at challenges as a door to an opportunity, or at least a lesson to learn. If you learn lessons from the things that don't go well or the challenging things in your life, you're moving forward. You're moving in that direction that's going to bring you to wherever your goals are, or at least closer to them. At the end of the day, for the things you love and are truly passionate about it, remember why you love doing them. And even in tough times, if you could focus more on those things, it'll help you through those tough times. Again, fine tuning your mindset doesn't mean leading to perfection and everything's going to be wonderful all the time, but it's continuing to move forward in your path. So be passionate, do what you love what you do. If you don't, find things about it that you can love. If you can't find things to love about it, maybe it's time for you to move on and move forward. This next part, oof, be flexible. Now, there are some people that are overly flexible. These are your people pleasers. There may be some of you in the room. I'm actually a recovering people pleaser. Or there may be some of you that have either gone through trauma or lots of bad things in your life, and now you're completely inflexible. You're super guarded. You have your armor on at every turn, and you don't open up and trust and be vulnerable with people. So on the one side, there's the completely people pleasing, which isn't good. Then there's the people that are ultra rigid, which isn't good. The harmony is somewhere in the middle. So here's what I can suggest for you. And excuse me for a moment. Here's what I could suggest for you. Be strict in your values. However, be flexible in your approach, be flexible in your methods. For example, instead of being totally rigid or totally people pleasing, let's say there's somebody in your life to where they're actually growing with you and building with you. You may be a little more flexible toward pleasing them or agreeing with them or being more amiable with them. However, there might be somebody in your life that's not treating you very well. You might need to be a little more rigid with that person. Not on the extremes, but be adjustable, be flexible in your methods or your approach. Hold your boundaries while working within others' boundaries. Now, I told you I have a completely separate boundaries program. That's a whole conversation. However, for the benefit of fine tuning your mindset, normally when people talk about boundaries, they always talk about themselves, and rightfully so. It all starts with you. However, one of the things we do forget is we want people to respect our boundaries. However, we also need to be respectful and understanding of other people's boundaries. Even if we don't agree with them, we have to at least be understanding and respectful of it. So, holding your boundaries while working within others' boundaries, a great way to be flexible. This last part, simply be open minded, open to ideas. One of the hard things for all of us to do is really be open to feedback, especially if it's a little more on the critical side. But be open to ideas, be open to feedback, definitely be open to change, be open to adjusting. The more you can be open, one of the things I share with people is be open to perspective. Even if you don't agree with something, it doesn't hurt to learn a little more about it, just to know a little bit more. Again, you don't have to agree with it. And this is part of a lot of the things that are dividing us as people. We see it in the news all the time. There's division everywhere. And one of the reasons is that people have become less open to perspective. I may believe that blue is the greatest color in the world. You may believe that orange is the greatest color in the world. However, if we continue to debate over which is the best color, we're never going to get anywhere. Be open to perspective, ideas, feedback, be open to change, be open to adjustments. Now, this also isn't saying you go forward and you just completely change your life. That's pretty intimidating and not realistic. But taking small steps and being flexible is a very good way to fine tune your mindset. Don't complain. This is a hard one, people. This is a really difficult one to get through. Don't complain. Here's the deal. Every time you complain, or every time you're thinking about complaining, you're preventing yourself from moving forward or even appreciating the things that you do have or the things that are going well. Or, for somebody that says, Rob, nothing in my life is going well. Okay, instead of complaining about it, let's start to figure out the things that can move you forward, even if it's a small thing. Let's start to figure that out. So adopting a move forward attitude is one way to get you out of the complaint syndrome. We talked a little bit about this before, but this is where it becomes more important. Focus on the things you can control. You could control your thinking, you can control your emotions, even though sometimes it may not feel like it. You can control your response to things. And I will share with you a deep, dark truth that a lot of people have trouble digesting. If any of you have said, that person has made me mad, or that person has triggered me, that's not the way it works. Nobody can make you mad. Nobody can make you happy. Nobody can trigger you. You trigger yourself. You feel those things yourself. It's all in how you feel and you react to it. So even if you were to call me nasty names, it's up to me whether I'm triggered or offended by those things. Nobody can offend you. You offend yourself. You feel offended by something somebody said. That's on you. That's not on them. So focus on the things you can control. Then focus on the things you can do. A lot of times, and this is very true, our brains are designed for negativity. Our brains are designed to protect ourselves, even if it's not in our best interest. And think about that. So, because our brain is designed for negativity, the first thing we think are the things we can't do. Well, Rob, I can't do this and I can't do that. Sometimes it comes down to, well, maybe you can't, but maybe you just won't, or you're not willing to. That's different than can't. Now, if it's something you truly can't do, okay, you can be comfortable with that. And you could decide, okay, what else can I do? What are the things I'm able to do? And focus on that. At the end of the day, be grateful. Be grateful for what we have. I mean, realistically, if you're on this webinar tonight, you have access to Wi-Fi, wonderful thing. You have access to Zoom, wonderful thing. You have access to the resources at 99 The Agency, wonderful thing. Be grateful for those things. For those of us that have eaten today, great. We all woke up this morning. Otherwise, you wouldn't be logging on this call. Be grateful for all the things that are beneficial. And those are the things that help you fine tune your mindset and really get out of those complaining or Debbie Downer moments. Expect change. Here's the deal, everybody. None of us in this room, and there are no human beings that are powerful enough that change isn't going to happen. Change is going to happen. Change is happening. It's how you deal with change. So if you can expect change, here's some of the things you can do. You can accept it. Whether you like it or not, accepting change helps you actually fine tune your mindset toward a growth mindset because you're also understanding that a lot of change isn't up to you. Things are going to change. And if you could just accept it, I'm not saying agree with all of it, but if you could accept it, that's a step forward. You could prepare for change. Some people, and for those of us in the room that are procrastinators, and you put things off, put things off, put things off, at some point, you had to use the internet. At some point, you had to speak with another human being. So, for all changes that happen, preparation is one of the things. Now that AI is such a big subject, there are still those people out there saying, I'm never going to use AI. Well, chances are you already do and you may not even notice it. So, again, if you could prepare for change, that's a great thing. Evaluation, evaluate change. You don't need to make all the changes that are happening out in the world. However, make an evaluation of what changes you'd be comfortable with, what changes you wouldn't be comfortable with. When you evaluate those things, then you could start to move forward in a direction. And maybe you pick the easiest things first. You evaluate and you say, you know what? I'm not quite ready to automate my calendar. Okay. However, I am willing to go to a different store to buy my groceries. So you could evaluate all the changes that are happening in your life and go along that way. Along with change, really it's a good idea to determine what your solution options are. A lot of times we get stuck in black and white thinking. It's either this way, or we get stuck in thinking in extremes. You're either left, you're either right. You're either right, you're either wrong. And sometimes there's things in the middle of that to where we have different solution options. Maybe you want to change your environment. However, you're not able to move out of the situation or the home that you're in right now. However, one of the solution options would be maybe hanging around with a different crowd or different people or not being in that environment as often as you are. There's always solution options out there. When it comes to decision making and taking action, those are other things to where you need to expect those changes. We've had to make different decisions on how we work, how we communicate, what are some of the actions we're going to take. It used to be to where if you wanted to know something, you either had to go to the library or look in an encyclopedia or something like that. Now you could find out all these things online. So the actions we take, those are some of the changes that we need to navigate and go through. And then you assess all the changes that are going on with yourself and going on around you and decide what you want to be more a part of and what you want to be less a part of. The last part of this is making adjustments. Are you able to adjust and pivot quickly, or are you somebody that needs to ruminate a little bit and take a little bit of time when making decisions? How are you adjusting, especially with the things that may not be going so well? Are you able to make adjustments, or are you really rigid or afraid to make any changes? Rewrite your script. We're all adults in this room. At any point, you could rewrite your script. And by that, I mean build on the strengths and the things that are working well. Wherever your great abilities are, and all of you in the room, you have more than one great ability. I'm sure you have multiple great abilities. Whatever those things are, build them, strengthen them. Now, with any weak areas you have, I say either develop them. I wouldn't spend a ton of time developing any weaknesses, but you could invest a certain amount of time in them. So you could either develop your weaknesses, delegate them, or automate them, minimize them, or eliminate them. Anything that's not working out with you, you have the ability to develop, delegate, automate, minimize, or eliminate any of them. For example, as far as me, one of the things I did for my business is I automated my calendar. What that means is I no longer have to go back and forth with people about, hey, Rob, are you open at 1 o'clock for a meeting? Oh, you know what? Let me check my calendar. I'll get back to you. No, I'm not available Tuesday at 1, but I'm available Thursday at 3. Are you available? Well, let me check and I'll get back to you. I fully automated my calendar to where I no longer had to deal with those things. So any of the areas to where either it's something you don't want to do or don't like doing, there's probably things you could do to change that. That's part of rewriting your script. The last part of this is probably the most important part about rewriting your script. Evolve your thinking. And what I mean by evolve your thinking is if you continually think the same way and you're not open to other areas of thought, you're going to stay exactly where you're at. Even if you're taking different actions, if your thinking isn't different, it's really going to be hard for you to act differently consistently enough to grow and build and develop. So evolve your thinking. Along with evolving your thinking, create alternative plans. So if you say, I'm going to put all my eggs into, let's say, the acting basket, or the I'm going to be a musician, and you put all your eggs in that basket. However, does there need to be a plan B? Chances are there might need to be at the beginning of your career. So as you're making music, as you're writing things, you also would need to think of, okay, what are the other things I need to do? Whether it's to bring in income, to pay your bills, to take care of your families, to take care of yourself. Is it self-care? Like, what are the other things that as you evolve your thinking and you become passionate about something, you put your eggs in a basket? What are some of the alternate things you might need to think about in order to pivot well if something doesn't go well? All right. Here are just 3 starting points to changing or adjusting your mindset. Now, we only have a certain amount of time. There are many other things when changing a mindset, but here's 3 really good starting points for you. First of all, the difference between fixed and growth mindset. Understand that change is possible. You always have choices. Again, unless you're a toddler under somebody's care, or you happen to be maybe an adult or near adult that needs the care of somebody else for certain reasons, those are the only 2 things that exist. Otherwise, all of us have choices. So understand that change is possible. Your brain can grow and develop over time if you're consistent with changing your mindset. If you're inconsistent, it's going to be really hard for your brain to grow and develop in that realm. Understand your involvement in the change. Using your resources, continue learning, putting in real effort. A lot of times people do things and they say things like, well, Rob, I pray a lot, but nothing's really happening for me. My prayers aren't coming true. Or the things I'm wishing for aren't coming true. And one of the first questions I ask is, well, are you actually putting effort in for those things to happen? Because at the end of the day, wishing, hoping, praying, all those things, none of them come to fruition without action. So This is when you use your resources. You start to learn, you start to put effort into things, and then you'll notice that that will help change your mindset. The last thing you need to understand, this last starting point, is understanding that the steps you take will snowball over time. In other words, you need to repeat them. You need to be consistent with them. You need to be resilient and refuse to move backwards. These are very tough things to do. However, with repetition, consistency, resilience, you'll notice that the steps you're now taking will snowball over time and it will grow and it will build. And now you're evolving your mindset, you're fine tuning your mindset. All right. Those are the habits to fine tune your mindset. To quickly recap, don't stay helpless, take action, go the extra mile. And this is go the extra mile for the people and situations and environments that are deserving of it or move you forward. Be passionate, be flexible, don't complain, expect and prepare for change, and rewrite your script. Those are the habits to fine tune a mindset. Here's a great resource for any of you that are book readers or audiobook listeners. You could also look online. There's plenty of videos on this, The Growth and Fixed Mindset. This was developed by Dr. Carol Dweck, and she has an amazing book that's definitely in my top 5 favorites of all time. It's called Mindset, Changing the Way You Think to Fulfill Your Potential. Dr. Dweck, there's plenty out there about her. You could find plenty of information about that. Okay, while I go through all the questions and answer the questions from this evening, I encourage you scan this QR code. And what I did was I provided a resource for you to where you could download it into your phone, you could save it, you could make copies of it if you want to. What I did was I took all the things that we talked about this evening and I put it in an outline format for you. You could scan this QR code and upload that document. All right, let me take a look at the Q&A and see what we've got for this evening. Okay, a couple of very nice comments. Thank you very much, and welcome back to the people that have been in rooms with me before. And let's see. Okay, Alicia. And Alicia, you've been in rooms with me before and you always ask great questions. Welcome back. And Alicia asks, well, I guess starting with a statement. Let's see. Psychologic. If not attracted to criminals, only professionals, am I supposed to feel unhappy about what makes me happy? Am I supposed to feel unhappy about what makes me happy? The answer would be no. If something is making you happy, you should feel pretty good about that. That's a great thing. If somebody's leading you to believe that, your happy feelings or thoughts are not valid and you should be unhappy about that, those aren't the people for you. That's not heading you in the right direction. Am I supposed to feel unhappy about what makes me happy? No. You should feel happy about what makes you happy. I hope that answers it, Alicia. Thank you for that question. Okay. Christopher, thank you for being in the room this evening. Glad to have you. Christopher asks, how did you automate your calendar? I too am a business owner. Oh, great question, Christopher. So I actually have an app called Calendly. It's Calendly. Now, there are a bunch of scheduling apps and that sort of thing out there. I happen to use Calendly and I use it for everybody. When somebody says, hey, Rob, do you want to go out for coffee? I send them the link and I said, yep, take a look at the link, pick a date and time that works out for you, and I'll meet you for coffee. So by automating my calendar, the app I use is called Calendly, and it's absolutely wonderful. However, it's not the only app out there for scheduling. There are tons of other things out there that you could use. I hope that helps, Christopher. Thank you for asking that. Okay. Scott, thank you for being with us this evening. Scott asks, does it work for Broadway as well? I'm not sure what you're asking me here. Does what work for Broadway as well? So, Scott, if you're still with us on the call, um, clarify that question for me, and I'll be happy to give you a response. Oh, Denise from Rhode Island. Denise, always love having you in the group. You're such a great supporter. I appreciate you. I'm practicing my lines for a major project and have been a bit down in my progress. Thank you for your knowledge. Always appreciate it. I really needed to hear this tonight. Denise, I wish you all the best. If you're practicing your lines for a major project, get after it. You can do this. Put in the work, put in the time. You're experienced. I'm rooting for you. And please share with me how the project goes. I wish you all the best. That's wonderful. Okay. Let's see what else we've got. All right. Kai. Kai, you're always in the rooms with me. You always ask great questions. Thank you for coming back. Let's see what Kai has asked tonight. What if you need to relocate cities because the city you are in isn't great for entertainment and you can't afford to because work is slow and you can't find a job? And how is the best way about this? Best way to go about this? Okay. So if you feel you need to relocate cities and you can't afford to do that, this is when I would encourage you to figure out what the small steps are to get you to where you need to go. For example, if you can't afford to relocate cities, is there a way that you could either find a way to make more money to where you could travel to another city that's closer by and maybe you don't need to relocate there, but you could start to go there and find work? That's one option. The other thing would be, you can't find a job. In most areas, there are jobs available. However, it may not be a job that you want at the moment, but it may take you for a temporary time gravitating to a job that maybe you don't want so much for now, but may build you the funds to get you to relocate to a different city. Or you could research cities to where within your budget you may be able to afford it. But you're right. There are certain cities that aren't great for entertainment and they're not fulfilled with a lot of opportunities. That's when you would either need to travel a little bit or find the funds or build the funds to eventually relocate. That may be a longer play. Thank you for that, Kai. Okay. Okay. It looks like Virginia. Virginia, thank you for being with us. Looks like Virginia shared a poem, which I will check out later. I'm seeing if there's any other questions before we part ways this evening. Okay, Anthony, thank you for being with us this evening. Anthony's was, I don't know if it's a question or a statement. It says, kind of scared to take the step for an audition. Well, this is where the whole fine-tuning your mindset comes into play. We talked about being passionate. Anthony, if you're really passionate about this project or this audition or anything like that, you could lean into those feelings and work yourself up for the courage. Realistically, if it doesn't go well for you, at least you took the step. And remember, another way to build and fine tune your mindset was not only to be passionate, but take action. Step forward, do your best, put in any research you need to before that. But Anthony, I strongly encourage you, if you're passionate about this audition, go forward, do it. Take those steps. I have even though I don't know you, the fact that you're in a room like this evening learning about fine-tuning your mindset, you can do this. Take that step and move forward. I wish you well, and please keep me posted on whether you did the audition and how it went. I would love to hear that. Okay, it looks like there's a couple more questions. Okay, Ashley. Ashley, thank you for being with us this evening. Let's see what Ashley has to ask. What keeps you focused and on track? Really good question, Ashley. And I could go on a long time about this, but I'll keep it very simple and applicable for you and everybody else in the room. What keeps me focused and keeps me on track is number one, holding strong to my values, knowing where I want to go and knowing what I want to do, and being less distractible. So anything, I want to be realistic. There are things that distract us. However, I minimize distractions to spend more time focusing on what I want and staying on track. And that's what keeps my mindset going. When I notice I'm distracting myself too much, I'm aware of it. I stop the behavior and I continue to move forward toward the things that I want and the things that I want to do. So, what keeps me focused and on track is remembering what I really want, what's really important to me, and staying on that track. I hope that helps. Thank you for the question, Ashley. Very good. Okay. Virginia. Virginia asks, what what do you do someone tries really hard to shrink you down? Okay, Virginia, you have choices here. One of the choices is you could stand up for yourself respectfully. And this is what I mean by respectfully. Screaming at somebody, yelling at somebody, going off on somebody, or shrinking and hiding and running are not the healthy ways. A healthy way would be to let somebody know how you don't appreciate them treating you, how it makes you feel, and what you expect from them going forward. So those are the steps to take when somebody tries really hard to shrink you. Thank you for that. Okay. Somebody who's anonymous asks, how do you keep mental disabilities from getting in the way of just pressing forward? Well, for any mental disabilities, if you can acknowledge and are aware of those mental disabilities, figuring out how you can work around them to the best of your ability and focusing on that. That's how you just press forward in those situations. Realizing where maybe some disabilities are, or some shortcomings, or some weaknesses, and learning how to work around those things or work through those things to get you to where you need to be. Great question. Thank you for that. Okay. It does look like that was all the questions for the evening. Thank you so much for the engagement. Here is my social channels, ways to connect with me. If you do scan this QR code, it takes you to my bio site, and you can learn more about me, my services, the programs that I do, follow my social channels. I'm absolutely grateful for the time with all of you. And this is the same QR code. So if you want to scan this QR code, I thank you for being with me tonight. I'm glad you were here. I hope you got something out of that. And I look forward to seeing each and every one of you in a room going forward. Have a great evening, everybody.